Hello, and you may have noticed that we have no intro music yet again this week on episode 3 of IFA Insider. We'll explain why at the end of the show, but first we're going to just talk about this weekend's games. There were two matches played across the two divisions. Unfortunately, there were two games called off. The two games played were between the Carrick-Fergus Knights and the Craigavon Cowboys, Carrick winning 20-0. And of course, in IFL 1, there was a 2-0 win, for the Dublin Dragons over the Meath Bulldogs. Now, we're going to talk to Garland Drake of the Meath Bulldogs about that second game in our only interview this week, unfortunately. We will have a bigger show with our next show, but we'll explain all that as we go along at the end of the show. Keep a listen out for a terrible error made by your interviewer, Emmet Ryan, that's me, during this, and hopefully you'll spot it, and at the end of the show, in case you haven't, I'll make it really, really obvious. But now, here's me talking to Garland Drake. And joining me now from one of the few games that was played this weekend, given the weather, is Garland Drake. He's head coach with the Meath Bulldogs, who had an interesting game, I think it's fair to say, against the Dublin Dragons in IAFL 1. Garland, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Garland, it was a week low on games because of the weather. It was low on scores as well. 2-0. I suppose I would say it's an uncommon scoreline, but we had that last week as well in the Shamrock Bowl conference. What sort of a game was it that led to it only being a safety in the game?
Very hard-fought defensive game it was on both sides. Have to give the Dragons a lot of credit. They kept coming at us, and as we kept coming at them. So a very fought defensive game. Unfortunately, we couldn't get our offense off to get into the end zone, but we'll be working on that come practice. So.
As I was looking at the offensive side, because people weren't watching, were there many drives that made it past halfway, or what happened?
I think we probably got about a good run on 20 yards on one play, but that was pretty much all we were able to get on the day.
We'll start with the positives then, really, before we get into the offensive issues you guys have to address. You great defensive showing, obviously, to hold the Dragons like that.
Yeah.
What sort of looks were you guys giving them to try and shut them down?
We were trying to spread them out. We were trying to spread their defense out as much as we could to allow us to get some of our run game going and passing game as well. But have to give them credit. They kept coming at us, And
I suppose on your defensive side, though, you managed to really shut them down. So what did you guys see from them that you were able to shut off, I suppose?
Yeah, they were giving us a lot of looks for run, but then they would pass, and fortunately my defense was able to read up on that pretty quick, so we adjusted and went after the ball pretty much on every play. So.
And so looking at we'll deal with the score itself, I suppose, briefly. What was the situation like? Where had you guys managed to sort of control field position, get them down in the corner near their end zone?
Yeah, we did a few times. We were able to establish a good defensive set for them, and we pushed them back. Unfortunately, penalties kind of put us in a position to where they were able to capitalize on that safety. That was pretty much how it kind of ended up being. But unfortunately, that's the win,
And I suppose looking from the positive side, you've got the W. That's pretty big for you at this stage. Is there a big gap for you guys now to your next game?
Yes, I think we're about a month or so into before the 28th, I believe, is our next game, April.
So as I was looking at the positive side, a lot of time to work on your offense. What are you going to try and do with the guys in the next few weeks to get that sorted?
Yeah, well, in the next few weeks, we just gotta get the guys committed to practice and get in there and get it done and get them to be a cohesive team, because we got a lot of new players and we got a lot of guys that are just coming on board. So this should give us a great opportunity to get those guys more cohesive as an offensive unit and everybody working on one, as opposed to kind of new guys coming in and not fully understanding the playbook and things of that nature.
I suppose people are familiar with the Bulldogs, in terms of where your players are coming from, are most of them quite close to where you guys are based, or are they from all over Meath?
Jesus, they're all over now. I think we even have a couple guys near Cabin, if I'm not mistaken now. So yeah, it's a good mixture. We got a lot of Meath guys and we got a few Dublin guys now as well. So it's very, very good mixture in the team.
And naturally, Garland, with your accent, I think most people will guess you're not a local originally. So how did you end up with the Bulldogs?
She told me the weather was just as good here as it was in California. I tell that as a joke, but
My understanding is you don't really have seasons in California. It's just lovely all year
There
round.
you go. Yeah. Yeah. Today proved to be totally different, but that's okay. Yeah.
And you're working with a man familiar with me, former coach and co-player of mine, Dave Rothwell. How are you finding working with Coach Rothwell?
Coach Rothwell, he's like myself. There's a lot of likes that we have together, and football is our passion. And it was a good mix, and it's a good fit. And I am so happy that I was able to keep him on board. It's been great, and it's going to get better.
I suppose one last thing, Garland, before we go is, I suppose, because even though you had a great game defensively today, looking ahead, like it is 3 weeks to get ready for the next match.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to try and do on defense to try and like step it up a notch, even though you pitched a shutout today?
The step up for the defense is to we're just going to go after the ball a bit more and try to get the ball, strip it. We're going to do our best to go back to basics football and do the fundamentals to strike and repeat strikes and get that ball, push the offense back as far as we can, so we can give our offense a greater opportunity to get in the end zone.
Well, Garland, on a weekend where most players were stuck, at home and able to play, you guys picked up a W. So congratulations again.
Yeah, well, it was the Dublin Dragons that pulled out today, but I just like to say congratulations to them and the coaches. It was a great game on the day.
That was Garland Drake, coach of the Meath Bulldogs. Now, you may have noticed that I managed to mistake the score during the interview with Garland, thinking that they had actually won the game. But fortunately, with the points being made by Garland, it still came out pretty good in spite of that. So my apologies for that horrendous error, and hopefully didn't show up too badly during the piece. So we're going to get to, first of all, the fixtures for the next week of games. We're off next week because, of course, it's St. Patrick's weekend, and there's a bank holiday, so there's no games on. But week 5 sees the league come back. Only games in the Shamrock Bowl Conference in week 5. They are the UL Vikings at UCG. That'll be in Belfield at 1 p.m. The Dublin Rebels against the Carrickfergus Knights. That's in Carrickfergus RFC at 1 p.m. The Belfast Trojans at the West Dublin Rhinos. That'll be in Castleknock College at 1 p.m. And the Cork Admirals at Trinity College Dublin, which will be in Trinity Sports Grounds, also at 1 p.m. For full details on these fixtures, go to the IAFA's website, americanfootball.ie, and of course find them on Facebook and on Twitter, where you can find them pretty easy enough. And if you want to go to the games or want to find out more, we can announce that we have managed to convert someone to being a player. So a big shout out to David Hartery, a new wide receiver with the Waterford Wolves. David listened to the show last week, had a mean to go down to join the Wolves for a while, and he was encouraged basically by our latest show, by our last episode, about that, and is now training with the Wolves as a wide receiver. So hopefully in a couple of weeks' time we'll hear back from the Wolves, see how David's getting along, and indeed how the Wolves are getting along after they won their first game of the season last week, 14-12 over the North Kildare Reapers. So now about the music. Well, I've been chatting with Morris Cosgrave in the IAFA, and we've been deciding that, the two of us have such wildly different tastes. It makes way more sense for us to put it down to you guys to select the music. So what's going to happen is, Morris and I are going to pick a few tracks, we're going to post them on the IAFA's Facebook page, and we're going to ask you guys to tell us what you think is the best to use for an intro and outro music. There'll only be about 10 seconds of each track being used. We want to hear your thoughts. Just tell us what you think is good. Do tell us what you think is awful, because we don't have an awful theme tune. And we'll work it from there, basically. And of course, if you have any suggestions yourself, feel free to put them up on the site as well in the comment section after we post those links. But just remember, it has to be rights-free music, because if it's got rights, we'd have to pay for it. And well, I've got no budget. I'm pretty certain we're not going to get a budget from the boys in IAFA HQ, in that mythical building that exists, to buy music. So rights-free music. If you've got any ideas, fire them away to us. And as always, send ideas to me at Action81 on Twitter. I'm always willing to hear. But we'll post a few links in the next couple of days on the IAFA's Facebook page, and we'll hopefully have them in time for episode 4, which will be coming out after week 4 of games. Well, sorry, after week 5 of games, although technically it's week 4 because week 1 was cancelled. And after that wonderful bit of rambling to finish off the show, that's pretty much all I've got. Thank you for listening to the first 3 episodes of IFA Insider. We're going to take a week off, and we're going to hopefully come back with intro music and with introducing 2 of the games in week 5. There's a couple of really interesting ties. The one that jumps out to me off the board is clearly the Rebels at the Knights, as both teams unbeaten playing that game. Also, the Admirals at Trinity really has a bit of a tasty look to it, because Trinity, after scoring that big win in Limerick, will really be up for the visit of Cork. and we'll get to really see the tests they're going to be facing as they go on this season. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this slightly shorter than usual show. Personally, I prefer the shorter format. But for now, I've been Emmet Ryan. Hit me up on @Action81 on Twitter, and thank you for listening.